This is the easiest way to run a drum smoker in 2025. The first question you may be asking is, what is a drum smoker? And the answer is very simple. It's typically a 55 or a 30-gallon drum that's been converted into a smoker with some intakes, a lid, and an exhaust. Today we're specifically talking about the Quattro D drum smoker. It's the newest drum that I've got in my arsenal. The first thing when it comes to drum smoking, and I think maybe the most important thing, is to always start out with lump charcoal. Now, some people might say that briquettes run better because they run longer and more even, but I like to argue against that because I think that lump charcoal is going to give you a much more superior flavor. It's going to run a little bit hotter and it's going to give you a more classic barbecue flavor in the end. When you're cooking on the drum smoker, a lot of the fat that's coming off the meat you're cooking is going to hit those coals, and that's going to create a steam-like effect which will add flavor in the end to your product. To set up the drum smoker, this is extremely simple. Fill your basket up around 3/4 of the way. You can go all the way if you want a really long cook. Today I don't need it that long, but I want it around 3/4 of the way. We're gonna put it right into the middle of our drum smoker. Now you can start this charcoal one of two ways. You can use a torch. It's typically made for weeds. I'll put a link in the description. I do that a lot when it comes to competition cooking, but today we're gonna be using Royal Oak fire starters with Royal Oak lump charcoal to make sure we get this up to temp. All I'm gonna do is throw my fire starters right in the middle and light them up. Now all I want to do is open both of my intakes, take the lid off, and let some oxygen get in there so we can get this fire up to temp. So let's talk about some of the advantages of using a drum smoker while it's coming up to temp. A lot of people would think that this is a really dry cooker, but because you have all the fat dripping on those coals and that steam-like effect, this is actually one of the more moist environments that you can get when you're cooking your barbecue. Another thing is going to be hot and fast cooking. We can cook racks of ribs on this drum smoker in less than 3 hours, and that is just complete convenience. So although this is a hot and fast cook, I actually do believe that you really need to pay attention to your drum smoker just to make sure that nothing's getting out of control. Now that my charcoal is nice and hot, I want to talk about wood chunks. This is what you're going to use to add smoke flavor to your barbecue. This is all that I'll use if I'm using my drum smoker. Sometimes I'll use two of these, one post oak, one pecan. If you guys have watched the channel, you know that's my favorite combination for smoky meats, but less is more when it comes to wood chunks. Don't overdo it. My coals are nice and hot, and if you look right here, you can see about a softball size that's completely hot and ready to rock and roll. I always look at that as my target for me getting my smoker to temp. At this point, I can throw a wood chunk on, and now I'm going to start adding my grates to my smoker. If you look at my Quattro D, you can see we have prongs for a top grate, and then around 6 inches lower, we have one for a bottom grate. What I like to do is always run 2 grates because I think a water pan is one of the most important things when you're using a drum smoker. And by a water pan, I mean a half pan that I always like to hug to the left side. No specific reason, that's just the way I like to put it. Now, why is a water pan so important? In my opinion, it allows me to control my drum smoker just that much more. If I have meat on this drum smoker, I have a hot zone and I have a cool zone. We've talked about it with the Weber kettle, and I truly believe that it is the same with the drum smoker. We have the fat dripping on those coals, and it can get out of control. It can cause flare-ups. This allows me to spin that top grate and kind of control where the grease is going, making sure that nothing gets out of control and I don't have a grease fire inside of my drum. Another thing that's very important, in my opinion, is having a clean drum. A lot of people don't like to clean their smokers. I am against that personally. You do you, but I definitely think that the grease on the bottom of these drums can cause issues, especially when you're cooking something larger like pork butt or brisket that you really don't want to mess up. Now, one thing I want you guys to know is that the front side is where you have your 2 intakes and the top of the lid is where you have your exhaust. So I have the exhaust on the opposite side of the intakes, and that's to create that natural airflow. So we have the air going into the intake, it's going to travel through the drum, and it's going to come out of the exhaust. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that the smoke can come out of the exhaust naturally. You don't want to have it on the same side as your intakes. That's going to cause for a more uneven cook. Now at this point, all we're waiting is for our drum to reach 300 degrees before we lock in our intakes. Now that we're at target temps, we're going to go ahead and close these intakes down. I'm just going to put my finger in, close it right on top, and you're good to go. We'll do the same exact thing on the other side. On the exhaust, personally, I do not touch this at all. I never have. I've never had any issues with it. I always leave this wide open. Now that we've gotten the smoker up to temp and we've showed you all the preliminary things we like to do to make it run optimally, we've got a turkey breast here that we're going to put on. We're going to show you exactly how to cook it. We'll get our lid off, grab my turkey breast, and we're going to start it here on the side with no water pan. Kind of like to tuck my turkey breast in a little bit just to get a really nice shape. One of the things you'll notice when that turkey breast hits the grate is that we get a little bit of a sizzle. That's going to be that hot and fast effect on the drum smoker. Now, one of the other things to think about when you're using this drum smoker is how long you have your lid off. Because we're making cooking videos today, it's a little bit harder for me to be really quick, but I do recommend that you get your lid off and put it back on as fast as you possibly can. When you open up that lid, there's going to be oxygen getting down to that charcoal. It's going to get extremely hot, and sometimes it can get out of control. It's happened to me where I've been shooting videos. We have to close all the vents down just to bring it under temperature in order for it to climb back to my target temperature. So always try and be quick. That's one of the most important things when you're using your drum smoker. It's been right at 30 minutes on our smoked turkey breast. What we want to do now is we want to rotate this grate. So you can see that right now this is over the hot coals. That's our hot zone. I'm just going to spin this, and we're going to put it right over the water, the cool zone. And the reason is because I don't want the coals to get too hot and cause too much of a char under that turkey breast. I do want that beautiful flavor on the bottom of my turkey breast, but with poultry especially, we definitely don't want those drippings to get everything out of control. Now, if you're cooking beef or any other protein, it may not be as important, but bacon, chicken will have a lot of fat dripping on those coals, and it can definitely get out of control. The beautiful thing about that water pan is even if you notice that your temps are getting too high, you see a lot of smoke coming out of the exhaust, you can spin it, you can protect it, and you can let those temps regulate before you put it back over the coals. Now, another thing to note, if your temperature does get too high and a little bit out of control, all you need to do is shut down your intakes, and you can actually shut down your exhaust as well. What this will actually do is kill the oxygen supply to this drum, kill those temps, but you don't want to let it sit like this for too long. It'll completely put your fire out, and then you'll have to restart it. You definitely don't want to do that, but this is an option if your fire does get a little bit out of control. Now, on the opposite end, if your fires get too low, you can always use a hand blower. This is one of my favorite tools when it comes to using a drum smoker. You can open that lid, and you can actually put the blower on the coals, and then you'll reignite them, and you'll get them nice and hot. Again, you don't want to get out of control with this, but this is a great tool to have in case your fire gets too low. The last thing we're going to talk about on this drum smoker is that grate level that you see below the one that we're currently on. That's going to be something that you can use to get closer to that fire so you can sear and or just get hotter temps. So what I'm going to do to show you guys that, pull this turkey breast up. I want to show you the bottom side here real quick. That's one of the benefits of using a drum. You can see that little bit of char there. You can see that color is really nice and beautiful, but we're going to go ahead and take this top grate off, and we'll drop it to the bottom grate. That is going to be a lot closer to that fire, and that's also going to create more char action on this drum. If you guys wanted to cook steaks down here, you absolutely could, or if you wanted to do anything just closer to the fire, you can. I'm going to close this up. We're just looking to build a little more flavor on this turkey breast. It's just about done. The turkey breast took about an hour to get to 150 degrees internal, which is definitely hot and fast. I'm still gonna get that beautiful smoke on it, and I know that it is gonna turn out incredible. Drum smoking is one of my favorite ways to cook. If you guys have any other questions about the drum smoker, leave them in the comments down below. I definitely think that this is very simple, but it can get out of hand if you guys walk away for too long, leave that lid off, or don't take some of the precautionary steps that I told you to take today. That water pan is going to help you a lot. I think it's very necessary, and it's something that I will actually continuously fill up as the cook goes on. I like to have water in my water pan at all times. That's just the way I like to do it. If you guys don't have a Quattro D, go out and get yourself one. This is one of the most beautiful smokers that I've ever gotten, and I highly recommend it. I love this drum smoker, and I can't wait to do more. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.